So under, kind of pick up the skin here. My whole salt. Oh my gosh. All over the ground. Hey everyone, I'm Sav and this is Lagom Eats. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make a juicy oven roasted turkey. With Thanksgiving just around the corner, we're starting to think about how we're going to cook our bird this year. In this video, I'm going to show you all the tips and tricks to get that juicy, tender meat with that crispy, crunchy skin. Let's take a look at the ingredients. We're going to need 1 whole turkey, 1.5 quarts of chicken or turkey stock, a little bit of baking powder, 2 tablespoons of oil, a teaspoon of garlic powder, 2 bay leaves, a 1/4 cup of flour, 2 teaspoons of thyme leaves, 2 teaspoons of dried sage, 2 carrots, 1 celery, a couple tablespoons of butter, 1 onion, and salt and pepper. Let's get cooking. So I'm using an 18-pound turkey today. I ran to like 3 different stores. I could not find a turkey anywhere. It's a little early to get them, so I just chose the only one that I could find. However, if you don't know where you're getting your turkey this year, I highly, highly, highly recommend checking out Dartagnan. If you've watched any of our videos, you know that we love them. They raise all free-range meat and use sustainable, humane farming practices. Their meat's incredible, and they've got a ton of different varieties of turkeys for you to choose from. They have just natural, organic, heritage, and wild. So check them out. There's a link in the description below. You can pre-order your turkey and have it delivered fresh to your doorstep right before Thanksgiving. All right, so our turkey is open. So what you're gonna have in here is you're gonna have the neck, and then also there should be like a little bag, or they may just be loose in there. And these are all the organs. There's the heart, the liver, and the gizzard. So we're gonna be using these, except for the liver, for our gravy. So do not throw those out, keep those, just set them aside for now. Now, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna brine this turkey. So there's 2 ways of brining a turkey. You can wet brine it or dry brine. So wet brining involves putting this in a huge bucket of salty water. It's going to pull in a lot of moisture. The problem with this though is it kind of dilutes the turkey flavor. You'll have a really juicy turkey, but it's not gonna be as flavorful. Plus the skin is gonna be all wet, and yes, we're going to pat it down with paper towels, but it still won't crisp up as much in the oven. So what I like to do is dry brine. So what that means is we season it and then we leave it in the fridge uncovered for about 12 to 24 hours. Don't go above 24 hours, then kind of has the opposite effect. It kind of gets more dry and the skin becomes leathery. So we're going to liberally season this all over with kosher salt. We want to get on the skin, and you want to get it underneath the skin as much as you can. Ooh, stick it in there, lift up that skin. Don't peel it off all the way, but push that salt underneath so it can penetrate the flesh as well. So now while this is sitting in the fridge uncovered with that air circulating around, the salt is going to extract all that moisture, concentrating that turkey flavor so it's not all diluted like when we wet brine it. And the skin is going to dry up, so when we put it in the oven, it's going to crisp up really, really nicely. Now, you may be wondering why I have some baking powder right here. This is another little trick that will make that skin super, super crispy. Now we're just gonna use a little bit, about a teaspoon, and we're just going to sprinkle it all over and rub it into the skin. Now this baking powder trick I've seen used a lot for potatoes, makes super crispy potatoes, but it also works amazing for turkey or chicken skin. Now we're going to put this in the fridge uncovered for about 12 to 24 hours. I usually like to do this the night before I'm cooking it or really, really early in the morning. So I will see you guys back tomorrow. All right guys, so we're back. It's been about 16 hours, and as you can see, it's really dry on top here. The skin is super dry, so that's gonna really crisp up in the oven nicely. So now we only salted this, so we're going to put our other seasonings on it. All right, so we're using some dried thyme and sage today. using about 2 teaspoons of thyme, and then we'll do 2 teaspoons of sage. The seasonings are obviously up to you. You could do fresh, you know, rosemary, sage, thyme, whatever you wanted. If you're using fresh, use a little bit more. I'd use probably a tablespoon each. And then we're gonna use some garlic powder as well, about a teaspoon. You could use fresh garlic too. And then we'll need about a teaspoon of black pepper. We'll give this a little mix. So now we're gonna be using oil. I'm using some grapeseed oil. You can use olive oil, canola oil, whatever oil you want. Now, a lot of recipes call for butter, which butter tastes amazing. However, there is a lot of water in butter, so your skin isn't going to brown and crisp up as nicely as if you use oil where there's no water. So we're using oil. We'll just put some into our rub here and get this all moistened. Probably put about 2 tablespoons. All right, so now we'll use our brush and we'll just brush this all over our turkey. Now you want to get on top of the skin and then also get underneath that skin again as well. Depending on how big your turkey is, you may need more or less seasoning. So don't go by my measurements, just kind of eyeball it. And make sure that you do the inside as well. So now we want to let it come to room temperature so it cooks more evenly. So let it sit out for about an hour. And while it's sitting out, preheat your oven to 500 degrees. So while your oven is preheating, put a baking stone on the bottom rack. So what the baking stone does is when we put the turkey in, we're gonna turn down the oven to a lower temperature. That baking stone holds in some of the heat at the bottom, so these thighs are going to be more hot and they're gonna cook a little bit faster than your breasts. The problem with a turkey chicken like this is by the time the legs are done, the breast is already overcooked. So the breasts are a bit more dry. With the baking stone, it kind of gives the thighs a head start in cooking, so the breasts and the thighs can be done at the same time. So we actually are not going to be using one of those, you know, fancy turkey roasters that you see everyone buy. That will shield the thighs from getting all browned. So we're actually gonna be cooking it right on this baking sheet with this baking rack in there so the air can circulate underneath the turkey and get the bottom nice and crispy too. So it's almost ready to go in the oven. The last thing we gotta do is we've got to tuck our little neck flap underneath. Put this underneath body like that. So we're going to tuck the wing tips underneath the body as well so they don't burn. And you'll twist it under. It's gonna start to kind of crack. Oh, it's slippery. That's okay. Just get it under there. This is a very hard angle to do it at. I normally do it closer to my body. There we go. So we are not going to be trussing this turkey. Sometimes you'll see them tie the legs up with some kitchen twine. You can do that, it makes for beautiful presentation. However, it doesn't allow the legs to cook evenly, which again is key in getting that juicy, tender meat. So this is ready to go in the oven. We're gonna put it in at 500 degrees, but immediately turn it down to 325 degrees. While our turkey is cooking, we are going to make a fortified stock to use in our gravy. So this is where our giblets are gonna come into play. We'll use the neck, the gizzard, and there's my heart, and the heart. You can use the liver as well. However, it can impart like a pretty livery flavor to your stock, so a lot of people don't like it. I'm gonna leave it out today, but if you wanna put it in, you can do that. I would put it in like the last 30 minutes of simmering though. We'll put some veggies in our stock as well. So we're gonna start by just quartering this onion. So you don't have to cut this any certain way. Just cut off kind of the root, and then I'm just gonna half each, so a quarter. And we're just gonna rough chop our celery as well. And then same with the carrots. No need to peel them. So we're gonna throw all this in our pot. We'll throw our gizzard in there, the heart. All right, and we'll chop up our neck into a few pieces as well. Put that in there. We'll put in 2 bay leaves. And then we're going to add 1.5 quarts of stock. If you have homemade stock, that's best, but I don't have homemade stock today. I'm using store-bought, but that's why we're doing the fortified stock, so it'll be more flavorful for our gravy. We're gonna turn on our stove, and we're gonna bring this up to a simmer and simmer for about an hour. So you can use this liver for liver pate or just fry it up, put it on a salad. It's really good. Or it's also a nice and nutritious treat for your dogs. So I'm gonna cut this up, and we actually, during quarantine, we got another little pup. We added one to the family. His name is Luca, so you haven't met him yet, but you will today. All right, let's give these, Luca, Chauncey, Grayson. All right, everyone sit. Hey, sit nicely. Cool. Chauncey, Luca. Oh, what is that? Is that good? Oh no, not sure. So this is little Luca. He is almost 5 months. We got him about 2 months ago, or 3 months ago now, oh my gosh, 3 months. He's a Chihuahua, we think, maybe some Dachshunds, maybe a Chiweenie. We're not sure, but he's a very good boy.
Luca.
All right, our stock has been simmering for about an hour, so we're going to strain out all the solids. All right, so we've got about 1 quart of stock. We're just gonna set this aside until our turkey is done. All right, our turkey is done. It looks absolutely gorgeous and smells amazing. Took about 3.5 hours in the oven, so that's about 12 minutes per pound. So if you're cooking a different size turkey, I would gauge about 10 to 15 minutes per pound. So now we want all these pan juices on the bottom. We're gonna transfer it to a clean pan so it can rest. So because this turkey is so big, it actually needs to rest for about 30 minutes. So that gives us plenty of time to make our side dishes and make our gravy. All right, so we've got all these delicious pan juices and all the stuck on fond on the bottom of the pan. We do not want to throw that out. So we're gonna put it over the stove. This is too small, so I'm gonna have to go back there. All right, so now we're just gonna take our stock that we made, pour a little bit on the pan to deglaze it. And then just scrape up all those stuck on bits. It should come right up. Now we'll turn it off, and we're going to pour these juices with our stock as well. All right, so we strained our pan juices. As you can see, there's this huge layer of fat on top. We want to get that off. So a couple ways you can do that. Old school way, you can just take a spoon, but it's not very accurate. You can let this completely cool down, refrigerate it, and then the fat will be hardened and you can take it off. But I'm gonna use a fat separator today because that's easiest. So all we have to do is, normally there's a strainer on top. I already strained it, so I don't need it. We'll just pour it in. We've got that little stopper in there. Now we're gonna let it settle again. Okay, so now we're gonna pour the non-fat part into a measuring cup or a bowl or something. And this we'll put with the stock. So just pour it out right until you get to the fat. And then this fat we're gonna use like you would butter to make the roux. All right, it's time to make our gravy. Let's turn on our stove to about medium and let the pan heat up. All right, we're gonna pour about 1/4 cup of our fat into our pan. And we'll put 1/4 cup of flour in there as well. Go ahead and mix that together and create that paste. You want to let the flour cook off for about a minute so you don't have a raw flour taste. All right, so we're going to steadily pour in our pan juices. We'll start with this. This is going to be the most flavorful. And continually whisk so we don't have any clumps. Now, I like to make a lot of gravy because I feel like that always disappears so quickly. Okay, so now we're gonna add in some of our fortified stock. And you're gonna add in a quart total, 1 quart. All right, so we'll let this cook so it can thicken up a bit. All right, so our gravy has thickened up nicely, and the consistency you want is if you put like a metal spoon in there, coats the back of the spoon, you run your finger through it, and there's a trail. So make sure you season it with salt and pepper to your taste, and we will keep this warm for when our turkey's ready. All right, so our turkey's been resting for 30 minutes. It's time to carve. Nice crispy skin. All right, so we carved it up, and this isn't all of it. We've still got a whole plate of the rest, but it's so juicy, guys. My husband and I were saying we don't even need gravy for this. It's so good. The flavor is amazing. It's juicy and tender. I'm just gonna eat a little bit of this breast. Breast is actually my favorite. I know everyone loves the dark meat, but I actually love white. So we'll pour some gravy on this. Oh, look at that, looks incredible. All right, let's take a bite. Just cuts through so easy. Super juicy, none of that dry breast meat that you need to just cover in gravy to try and moisten it up. The gravy though tastes amazing, super flavorful from all that fortified stock and the pan drippings that we used. This turkey will for sure impress your guests, and it's the perfect way to cook it for any holiday meal. I hope you guys enjoyed my juicy oven turkey. The full recipe can be found on my food blog at logofmeats.com. I've got new delicious dishes coming out every week, so hit a like and subscribe below. I'll see you guys next time. Hey-do!